Hey everyone, welcome to an edition of In the Chute. I am Brandon Carpenter, and with me is my esteemed colleague and oldest son, Kalen. All right, Kalen, what have you got for us on In the Chute today?
All right. So for today, um, we just got done having a conversation on genetics with horses and cows, and this will come out probably a month or so after this has that will have been published, broadcast, whatever. But going down the line of genetic horses, what is it that you can do with your body to influence a gait in a horse?
Oh God. Uh, yeah, I mean, it depends on what you need your horse to do. I mean, if you've got a horse that's very pacey or lateral in its movement, you got to figure out, okay, why is it lateral? Is it got a long back and you're pushing, the back down, dropping its belly, causing it to ventral flex, and then go out of um, containment of its body, or God, I'm losing the word. Very common when you're collected. Thanks,
There you go.
thank you.
You're
One of the
welcome.
voices in there come up with one, yeah. So when it will take you out of collection, meaning if your front end is like this and your back feet are like this or like this, they're straight, and then you push that belly down, you're going to come out like this or at least like that, and it takes you out of collection or out of balance. So that can also happen by the head coming up, or if that horse's head is up naturally with the back flexed down, you can cause that horse to be lateral in its movement. It may do that naturally. That could be just the way the horse is. Other horses, their head can be up and their back can be fine, and they will not be pacey. So it just depends on that individual horse. You got to figure out what's going on with them. Typically, dropping that head down, getting them to drop their head, will raise that back up, because it's like a pendulum on a seesaw, or not a pendulum, but a fulcrum on a seesaw. The head's up, the back's going to drop if this is the front leg, so it's going to drop. Head down, back comes up, and then you come back into collection. So you can either move your body forward a little bit to get weight off that back, or put the stress towards the front or less on their back, drop their head down, does the same thing, or then pull their nose in, which will tighten those ligaments along their back and do the same thing. So you can also then use spurs as they are properly designed to use, not just to make a horse go faster or look good for the chicks in town, as
Right.
you young guys like to do.
I've never done that. Don't you ever say that to me.
You see them in college all the time, right?
Yeah.
Guys wearing their spurs are in college, like, get out of
Yeah.
here. Anyway, you can properly use your spurs to, just as you would do to yourself. If you were to poke yourself in the belly, and then with your fingers, you're going to tighten your core. It's the same thing on that ring of muscles on a horse's abdomen. Is if you touch that with your spurs, they'll tighten it up, which will also cause them to lift and strengthen their back. And you think about what that does for a human. When you're going to go lift something, you're going to tighten your belly up so it doesn't hurt your back. You're stiffening that back up so that you can get more use out of it without hurting yourself. And so that will also lift the horse's belly up. To take them from a lateral movement or a pace, meaning both legs moving at the same time on one side, back and forth, to a more square gait, what we call, or towards a diagonal gait, which when you go fully diagonal into the trot, you've just went through either the foxtrot, running walk, which is even 4-beat gait, or to the stepping pace, which is an uneven 4-beat lateral gait, and the foxtrot is an uneven 4-beat diagonal gait. So you went through those to get to that. So the thing is just adjust that back where it's comfortable for the horse and get that desired gait. Now, that doesn't mean that they can actually do a gait that you want them to, because they may have a conformation such that just doesn't allow it. And it would be like asking a long distance runner to be a weightlifter. Yeah, they might be able to do a little bit, but it's not what they're designed to do. So hopefully you don't do any damage to them in the meantime, picking up a bunch of weight like that. And the same thing with a horse. You could do something to them and cause some damage on joints or something later on. So that's one thing you can do. If you got a pacey horse that's you want them to be trotty, kind of the opposite. You try everything you can. You can slow them down like that, pick their head up a little bit, give them their nose, sit back a little bit on them to kind of get them to slightly ventral flex. I mean, there's drive them not quite as hard so that they really drive forward with their hind legs. You want them to uncollect a little bit, be a little slower on their hind end. Number of things that you can do like that to affect them. One of the things that we don't want to do, just our way we do things, is we try to not do that with a hard pull on the mouth. We want a nice loose rein, so we just adjust that mouth or that head and just bump them a little bit, get them to come down with it or pick it up, depending on what you desire. But you're letting that happen with a loose rein. You're just touching and communicating with them instead of holding them there. So because that just develops a hard mouth and an unresponsive mouth if you're in their mouth all the time. So those are kind of the two, really the gross morphology of what you got to do. Speed is huge. Yeah. Speed kills. If you are trying to go too fast and develop that gait, and it isn't you're developing the gait, you're developing consistency of the gait. And so containing them into a good frame and moving them so that they are doing a gait very well, and they build muscle memory and over time. But if you want to ease them into that, and that doesn't mean you have to spend 8 months doing it, you can get them built up into a regular little faster walk, and even a little faster walk over time, say 8, 10, 12 rides, because you're conditioning them. And you don't have to spend 6, 8 months doing it. And there's some people say, oh, the first 2 years you have to walk this horse. No, you don't. I mean, no. If you got a problem with them, then certainly take whatever time it takes to do it. But we've done this many, many times in 6 to 8, 10 rides. If I'm starting to get up there where I'm at 15 rides, 20 rides on this horse, and I haven't found a gait yet, it's like, is this going to happen or not? And finally, I'll use terrain. I'll go up a hill, up a slight hill, so that they have to drive that hind end to hit, particularly into a running walk, so that they're really having to dig and collect themselves up to do it. And sometimes that helps them. Ground it soft, say a summer follow, or to get permission to go on the neighbor's place where they have some farm ground and they've got some fallow ground and it's a little deeper, almost like a heavy deep loam in an arena like you would find. Make that horse work a little harder. Same as action as it is to go up a hill. So all kinds of some little tricks like that, things to do. Keep a loose rein and let that speed come slowly, and keep a really good walk technically, and then the speed will come. Because if you try too fast, you try to get too much speed out of them, you won't get the really good, even technical walk out of them like you want, and you're sacrificing their gait for speed, which is not the point. Take a little bit more time, develop that consistency of the gait, and the speed will come on its own. You want to work at it, but it will come on its own. The first time you do something that's you've never done before, you're kind of slow at it. You do that a few hundred times, you can do it quickly. It's the same kind of concept.
Yeah, well, and I think you misspoke just real quick. At one point you said a pace, you kind of uncollect them and stuff like that. I know what you meant was a trot. So when people say pace, typically you're trying to collect, you're trying to support them. Trotting, you're trying to get them essentially kind of relax a little bit. Yep. Kind of not be as tight and I guess as collected. But
good, I'm glad. Yeah, if I said that opposite, good, I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that. But the other thing too is, trying to talk body. You said a lot of I think important stuff, but talking body position, I also think the one thing you didn't say was seat in the saddle. A lot of times we'll see people with they might have longer legs, but they're sitting in what we call a chair seat with shorter stirrups. But we tend to, partly because of riding skill and safety wise for us, we ride more of a forward seat. Can you explain kind of the difference? We got about 5 minutes. The difference between how those can affect the gait in specifically gaited horses.
Yeah, well, think about sitting. If you're standing in front of a chair, standing straight up, where is your body and where's your balance? It's going to be over the top of your pelvis and your knees and feet. Then when you sit down in a chair, where's that weight just gone? It's kind of behind you, because now you're sitting on your back or your butt. And the higher you bring your knees, the further you rock yourself back like that. So that position of a short chair seat, you can't move your body much. You're stuck in that right there in the back of that saddle, and you can't move your body forward. And doesn't necessarily mean the saddle moving forward. It's moving your weight from the back of the saddle to the front behind the swells. And just moving then and adjusting your weight forward, or like rocking on your pelvis, can change that gait tremendously. So a good rule of thumb is when your legs are down or relaxed and you're looking forward way out, and you can kind of just look down and peripherally see just the tips of your boots beyond your knee, you're just about right. A lot of people will be in an arena, and you'll see this in the English style of riding,
Right.
where their legs are jacked up. The extreme of that is a racehorse and jockeys, completely different issue, different thing. But those jockeys are also, if you watch them, they're leaning forward. They're not leaning back in that. They've got their legs up under them. They're more like they're aerodynamic. So in an arena setting, you'll see a lot of people with short legs or long legs, either one, and they're pulled up, so they've got a lot of bend to their knee, like they're sitting in a chair, kicking their weight back. Horse has a harder time moving doing that too. You got to have a strong horse, especially with a big guy, a lot of weight like I've got. It taxes them, and you can feel that weight. You can feel that struggle under you trying to push them up. So when a horse is in a trot and you're trying to uncollect them all, you can do that a little bit. You can pull yourself back, but I like to do that with my legs up and down, straight up and down, because I can move my legs around. You've got very limited amount of movement when you're in a chair seat. It's just from your knees down, not from your hips down, that you've got the movement. And you know what? You go on a long ride, and sometimes we typically will ride, for hours out doing something without getting off your horse. I mean, you may be 3-4 hours before maybe your bladder is what drives you off of that horse for a little bit. And so you're on them long term. You crank those knees up, those hips up, and you start to get stiff and sore, not fun, and your balance is not there. So a lot of reasons for it, but God, did I misspeak on any of that? I don't
I
know.
don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because it's just a way of also, I mean, it also results in the ventral flexion or the collection of the horse too. But like I said too, for us specifically, sometimes it's safety too. The reason why we have a forward seat, because if a horse starts to get a little Western on you, having those legs up there is not helpful to staying in the saddle.
No, and you want to, and again, you're gonna keep your weight forward, just like you say, but I want to be able to push my feet out, almost like I'm pushing on a dashboard.
Yeah.
Not way up, but I'm getting them out there, so I'm bracing myself on a 3-point where I can a shy to the side. You can ride that.
Right.
You may come off a little bit, but you're turning that horse around and you're staying on their back. I've done some 180s on horses, and then just like you're just sitting there and you're just moving with them. So if you're sitting on your butt with your weight back and you do that, you may end up on the ground if they shy to the side, or if they leap forward, you've got nothing in front of you, and people tend to come out of a saddle right up over the front of that shoulder. And when you do that with a short stirrup, there's not a lot you can do about it, and it happens all the time. Most people come out over the shoulder of that horse. So it's a safety issue, it's a training issue, but it's also an ability to really move your body in a very, very fine manner in which to fine tune a walk and get a horse to walk or not walk, or adjust it so that you can get into a running walk. You need to adjust more towards from a trot to a box trot, or whatever you need to do. You can do it with hardly anybody noticing. And I've solved a lot of problems in clinics that way. People, just the way they sit in their saddle is impeding what that horse can really naturally do, and get them straightened out. And it's not the horse at all, it's the rider being unaware of what they're doing to their horse.
Right. Well, I think with that we'll stick with, that's a good way to end it, with body position on influencing the gait on a horse. So we'll put this one to pasture.